Hello and welcome to TDSheridan Lab. My name is Terry, and today in the lab we are talking about Microsoft Bookings. More specifically, the shared pages function of Microsoft Bookings. This is effectively a lightweight CRM solution that's just included with most Microsoft 365 subscriptions. If you are looking for the personal, individual Microsoft Bookings option where you just throw a link in your email signature and people can sign up for meetings with you, don't worry, that's not this video, but I did create a video on that is available up here wherever. I'll link it and down in the description as well. So let's dive into the essentially free or included CRM solution from Microsoft. Microsoft Bookings is a scheduling tool that is included with the Microsoft 365 suite. It is primarily designed to simplify the process of booking and scheduling appointments. At its core, Microsoft Bookings allows your clients or customers to schedule appointments with your team members based off the services you offer and the availability you set for them. Traditional CRMs are often feature-rich, which is great, but they can be overwhelming and expensive to implement, especially if you're just starting out and have much simpler needs. These traditional CRMs are products like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 365, HubSpot, and others. Microsoft Bookings, on the other hand, offers a streamlined approach, focusing on the essentials of client management and appointment scheduling. The most valuable feature is its out-of-the-box integration with the rest of the Microsoft 365 suite, including email and Teams. This is something that usually requires extra licensing and extra configuration from those products I mentioned earlier. Now that I've spun all the marketing fluff and feature spiel, all that stuff in front of you, let's dive into the actual configuration of Bookings pages. To get to Bookings, you have three options. You can go to portal.office.com and traverse the waffle, go to my apps at microsoft.com and click for it alphabetically in the screen, or go through outlook.office.com/book-with-me and then go back to all pages. Once you're there, it will look something like this. Ignore the IT consulting tab. That was just my test run before this, and it hasn't fully deleted yet. Let's dive into creating a shared page for your business. Of course, I'm going to do IT consulting because that's what I know the best, but this is very flexible, but it is focused for service-related businesses, not so much for product sales. Click create to get started. We need to give it a name. How about Super Awesome IT Consulting? The business type will be IT support. Those hours look fine for the business hours. And let's add the logo real quick. I don't have Super Awesome IT Consulting, so my logo will have to do. Click next. Now on the staff selection page, you can load up your staff here in the wizard here, or you can do it after the wizard is complete. I will show you how to do it afterwards because it's a little bit easier to use. Click next. The third page here, it creates a service based off the business type that you picked on the first page. Create IT support as a 30-minute service, no big deal here. You can either edit this service on this page or finish the wizard and then go back to services and edit them all at once. I'm just going to let the wizard finish and I'll show you how to build a service from scratch. On the last page, you need to select who is allowed to book appointments. Basically, you have nobody, internal only, and then open to the public. Depending upon your use case, will determine the answer for this. If it's an internal tool only, then do only within your organization. If this is your line of business app where you're going to manage customers, you're just starting out with your brand new business or side gig, you got to set it to public. And in turn, in this case, let's just say Super Awesome IT Consulting is my brand new side hustle. So I'm going to flip this over to public and let anyone schedule it, which I'll take down before this video goes live. Let's click Get Started to dive into the configuration. After the wizard completes and you click on Get Started, you get put on the calendar page, which will be your overview of what appointments you have scheduled for the day, and you can adjust the view as needed. For now though, we need to go to the bookings page and finish customizing that page. At the top of the list, you see what type of bookings page this is: off, internal, public. Again, if it's an internal project just for internal scheduling, you can leave it to just my org. If it's going to be public, you need to make it public. And just in case you missed it, there is your URL to the page that you can either embed in your website, send out an email, both, put in your email signature. If you'd like me to create a separate video on how to integrate this Microsoft solution and maybe Microsoft Forms, into like your WordPress website, leave me a comment below. Happy to make one of those videos if you guys want to watch it. Basically, the first box is, do you want Google to be able to pick up and index this page? So if someone's searching your company, do you want this page to show up on Google? Yes or no? Check this box if this is an internal project or an external one. If it's external, let Google inventory it. If it's internal, don't. The second one for the one-time password is a way to validate users who are signing up for your services are who they say they are. This will prevent people from signing up for a bunch of fake sessions and then not showing up, thinking that you have a full day and then having no day. This is a precaution with some of the YouTube trends out there pulling those pranks. You can enable this if you feel you need it or not. Customer data usage. Right here, you can specify a little blurb about what you're going to do with the customer's data or not do, depending upon the context. A lot of people have concerns about customer data right now. If you just say, hey, we're only using it for scheduling and billing purposes, we're not selling it, it may put people's mind at ease and make it easier for them to sign up with you. And then the default scheduling policy. This is where you want to set most of your common settings or most of the normal settings for your services. You put all these common settings here, and then you don't have to specify them individually each time you create a service. For our example case, let's knock down the lead time a little bit. Super awesome IT consulting has no customers yet, so I have plenty of free time. And then let's set the send meeting invite just so we can automate some of the appointment scheduling pieces, which is the whole point of this product. The customize your page section allows you to select a template and a color, and if you want to show the logo or not, give a little personalization to Microsoft Booking. We're walking this line of it's an included product, so it's essentially free. And Microsoft does have a dedicated CRM product called Dynamics. So they're walking that line so it doesn't compete directly with Dynamics. It's more of a stepping stone. So this isn't exactly feature rich on the customization part, but you do have a little bit of finessing here you can do. The last section is the region and time zone. Make sure your business time zone is set, which one you primarily operate out of. And then you can control on if all the times are shown in your business's time zone, or if you want Microsoft to be the middleman and convert it on the fly. So, 3 p.m. our time is 2 p.m. their time. If you made any changes, go ahead and click save to have them be applied immediately to your bookings pages. Now let's just take a quick peek at our page, see what it looks like. Looks a little bit different than how we started, so that's a good sign. Now let's go down to business information and run through each one of those and update them as needed as well. There's some information from the previous section that's already in here and some from the wizard that already got populated, but let's just go ahead and double check it all to make our bookings page as complete as possible. The basic details are the basic details of your company. In this case, let's add the website and update the email address here. As you go through it, put in the values that make sense for your company. The next section is the privacy policy and terms and conditions. Obviously, if you are selling goods or services, you're going to be, wanting to collect money on it. So creating both of these policies, putting them on your public website, and then linking here is a good resource to have. The next section is the business logo. If you didn't do it during the wizard, you can upload it now to make it more personalized. And then same with the business hours if you need to adjust them, or if they change for any reason in the future, this is where you come back to adjust your business hours. The last section here, which is the only oddball in this program to me, is if you have Azure Communications Services set up for using their communication API for programmable voice, text, Teams, you can link that here and run the meeting processing through it. It's a great little extra piece that you can do. It just kind of is outside the scope, in my opinion, of this product, where Bookings is a very beginner-friendly CRM solution, and then Azure Communication Services kind of diving into the deep end of programmable communications. If you have it or you have someone on staff, you're going to pay for someone to use it to get that experience, then great, go ahead, link it here. If not, you can pretend this part didn't happen. Click save to apply any changes that you made, and we are ready to move on to adding your staff and creating services. Before we start creating services, let's get the rest of our staff added to this page to save some time in the future. Go to the staff page, And at this point, you should see if you added anybody during the wizard, they should be listed here as well. To add additional members, click on Add New Staff. In this first field here, you will search your Microsoft 365 tenant and just select users. Microsoft Bookings does support using staff members or inviting staff members that are outside of your Office 365 tenant. There is some limitations, though. They won't be able to access the shared calendar and things like that. So if you rely on Microsoft services like Teams and stuff like that to facilitate the services, you're probably better off by just buying an extra license and then spinning that outside person up as a user inside your tenant. And then after you set the availability for that staff member, go ahead and click save and then repeat this process for all of your remaining staff. On the services tab, you'll see the service that was created during the initial wizard when we set up this page. You can go back and edit it at any point, but I'm just going to dive into creating one from scratch and to show all the extra options that you have while creating services here. Go to the services section and click on Add New Service. We will start with the basic details section and just work our way through the rest of it. Give the service a name. For this consulting company, I'm just going to make a on-site appointment now since we had the 30-minute remote created by the wizard. We'll give it a name of on-site support with a description of on-site support for troubleshooting technology issues, 1 hour minimum. Since this is going to be on-site support, leave the location blank because this implies that we are traveling to customers' locations. I'm going to add some buffer time before and after the appointment to account for travel, and then specify the payment as an hourly rate of $150 per hour. And we will enable the customers to manage their own appointments. So if something comes up, they can cancel it and then beforehand and everything's good. For this last section here of maximum number of attendees, in this case, it's kind of a moot point because we're doing an on-site appointment. But if you're doing a class, a training session, something along those lines, you can do a one-to-many approach for this time slot for this service. In the next section here, the availability options will inherit your default scheduling policy. If the defaults line up, great, you can move on. If you need to modify them, go ahead and modify them and it'll just modify this one service. Next, we need to add staff. Depending upon how your staff and your business runs, this could be a first come, first serve, and you don't really have to do anything special. You just load them all in there and then let Microsoft figure it out. Or if you have it segmented, like this service can only be done out of like 3 out of 5 of my staff or whatever the case may be, you can just add the people who are qualified to perform that service. Next, as we go down the service, you have custom fields. These are very useful especially in the consulting area. In this specific case, on-site support implies I have to go out to a client's location, so then requiring the address field would be a good idea. You can add additional fields as necessary and then mark them as required or not to try and collect as much information up front. In this example here, I'm just going to mark the phone number and address as required so I can figure out where we're going. And then if we get lost, we have somebody to call. The final section of creating a service is notifications. You basically have email and SMS notifications as options for shared pages. Now that Teams Premium is out of beta, they did move the SMS part to be a part of the Teams Premium license. So if you want that feature and functionality, you do have to pay for Teams Premium. But everything else with email-based notifications is included at no additional cost. You can create multiple reminder notifications if it's, a week before, 2 days before, a half hour before, whatever you want that makes sense for the notification. And then you can have after appointment email notifications as well. This is an opportunity for you to sneak in a Microsoft form for customer satisfaction if you wanted to in that post email notification. If you want to see a video on that, I do have one that's loosely related about taking Microsoft forms and bringing them into SharePoint. That'll link up here. That'll give you a primer on how to use Microsoft Forms. If you want something more specific of forms with bookings, let me know down below and I'll take it from there. Once you got all your notifications lined up, just click save. Now we got services set up, we need to start actually managing appointments and customer data. The more you use bookings, your customer section should naturally grow. Here is where you can see the client history and their upcoming appointments. But what if a customer that's never worked with you calls you to create an appointment? What are you going to do? Can you do everything on the back end for them? Yes, you can. First, to create a service for a customer, or service appointment for a customer, I should say, go to the customer section and click on new customer. Type in their first name, last name, and basically fill out this form with all the information about them. With the way that Bookings operates, email address is arguably the most important field in this whole entire form. Just work your way down. The chat field is there for primarily Microsoft Teams. If you're consulting with someone who uses Microsoft Teams as well, then their email address and that chat address are generally the same. So then you could chat directly with them on Microsoft Teams. Same with phone numbers. Just work your way through the list, putting in all the information that you get, and then obviously account for things that you will need, like if you're doing on-site support, again, grab their address and things like that, and then you can fill out the extra mile options too. The extra mile option, in my opinion, birthdays, anniversaries, like when a sales guy knows that stuff, that means you said it one time, they wrote it down, and they want to make sure you stick with them in that case. Once the customer is set up, you can select the customer and then select on book appointment. From the top of this wizard, select the service they are looking for, and then fill out the corresponding fields from that service. Most of it should pull from the customer record. Then you have a couple checkbox items on confirmation emails and things like that that you can enable or disable based off the situation or if it feels redundant. In my case, I'm going to uncheck the email confirmation right now because I don't know if anyone owns boatface.com or not. Avoid some awkward email conversations there. And we'll go ahead and save this appointment up. And then now when we go back to the calendar view, we see we have a hour-long on-site appointment with Bodie McBoatface later on today. You got bookings set up. The next question is, how do you integrate it with other stuff? Let's just go through the common starting points. And this is the biggest piece that I'm sure there'll be questions about. Again, feel free to leave them in the comments section. I'll answer them. I'll create videos, whatever is needed to explain it. First and foremost is the calendar aspect of it. Once everything is loaded into bookings and appointments are being made, this calendar screen gets more exciting. This is your bookings combined view of all of the schedule across all of your staff. The next step is Outlook. Most people like to work on email and stuff like that in Outlook. After you configure a bookings page, the bookings app automatically gets added to Outlook. You can go to the bookings app and pull it up within Outlook so you don't actually have to leave Outlook to look at bookings. To take it a step further, some people like to layer calendars on top of each other. You can add the calendar of your bookings page directly to the calendar view in Outlook. To do that, go to the calendar section of Outlook, right click on the location there that you want to add the calendar to, and then do add calendar and select address book. If you have a lot of people in here, you can search by name. Fair warning, by default it pulls up the offline address book, which if you just created the bookings page, the offline address book hasn't been updated yet, so you'll have to switch it to the formerly known as online, but the global address book is the live copy that will have the information there. But generally the offline address book gets updated daily, so if the shared page is over a day old or you're adding staff and answering this question for them, the offline address book will have the information. Briefly mentioned Microsoft Forms earlier. Forms isn't necessarily a direct integration for bookings. You can create a form in bookings and then it'll create a link for that form, and you can then nest that link inside the post-appointment emails looking to collect customer service information and stuff like that. Then the last integration, which is also the only thing that is actually listed underneath the integrations page within bookings, is Power Automate. As you may or may not know, Power Automate is Microsoft's unified automation platform for all of the Microsoft 365 suite. Before the cloud, basically every product had its own built-in workflows, like SharePoint had SharePoint workflows and Exchange had their stuff, and it was all separate and segregated. Power Automate unifies all of that across the Microsoft 365 suite. As I just mentioned, I have that video about Microsoft Forms and to SharePoint using it through Power Automate. But you can also use Power Automate if you want to take bookings data and put it somewhere else. If you have a team member or an entity that uses Google services or Slack, then when there's changes, you can notify them on those platforms. Or if your business has a traditional CRM like Monday, Salesforce, etc., but didn't have the capacity to build out this service part of it, like you're using Salesforce for just product sales, not service, you could use Power Automate to get some of the data from bookings into Salesforce automatically. The part that I'm interested in, and if there is interest in it, is Power Automate also has connectors for some payment processors like Square and Stripe. So if you want me to dive into those categories, let me know down below as well. Now for the bookings gotchas. This isn't necessarily an extensive list, but this is the most common stuff that I've seen professionally that people try to do one thing to accomplish a goal and they're in the wrong direction. First and foremost, SMS messaging. Everyone likes getting a text message for a reminder for services and appointments, but now that Teams Premium is out of beta, your admin on the page needs a Teams Premium license. So not every person needs one, but at least the admin on the page needs a Teams Premium license to fulfill that functionality. $10 per user per month is a little steep once the introductory promo is up. Right now there's a sale on Teams Premium that you can get for $7 instead of $10. If you are a project manager or someone that does a lot of events, it can be useful for the additional customizations within Teams and the AI functionality of it. I'll leave that one up to you if you think SMS messaging is worth it or not. And then the next one, that's the biggest thing, which logically makes sense, but then when you tear apart how Exchange actually works, it doesn't make sense, is trying to use shared mailboxes with Microsoft bookings. There's been multiple times I've ran into issues where there's already an info at or some type of centralized calendar for a department or a group that's trying to spin up bookings for a specific use case. So they're like, I'm just going to use this shared mailbox and put it in as a staff member to collect everything centrally. One, that's not needed just because it has a centralized calendar already. And then two, it causes a lot of weird behaviors because behind the scenes, bookings uses a shared mailbox to process all the email and calendaring. One of the limitations is you can't log into it directly. You need to use a licensed user to interact with that mailbox. So then when you bring in another shared mailbox, you're trying to have a shared mailbox interoperate with another shared mailbox, which causes confusion. It's one of those things where sometimes it'll kind of work, and then when it doesn't work, it creates weird things. If you have multiple attendees for a service and one cancels, they'll cancel it for everybody. If you truly need that centralized repository, like the services you're offering, you don't want named people on, you just need a catch-all or whatnot, don't use a shared mailbox. Just spin up a separate dedicated service account and license it, and then everything will be stable. Beyond that, those are the two major gotchas. Team Premium costs an extra $120 a year, and don't use shared mailboxes with a solution that's built off of shared mailboxes. Thank you for watching. If you've reached this far, we are done. We've went over everything. So just a quick summary here. We've gone through how you create a shared page in Microsoft Bookings, how to create services, how to fill out all your business information, how to get all your email notifications, how to add staff, how to do everything. If there is any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I will answer them as soon as I can. And if needed or wanted, either way, I will create additional videos explaining some of the more in-depth topics like Power Automate. If you are looking for the personal side of Microsoft Bookings for just a simple book time with me, that is a separate video. That is also linked below. If you think I earned it, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Otherwise, again, this is TDSheridan Lab. My name is Terry, and until next time, keep building.